Welcome to Spooky Stories. We're your hosts, Jackie and Martha. For the next 11 days leading up to Halloween, we'll be sharing spooky stories, but not always spooky, from books and periodicals within the collections here at Seton Hall University. We'll start off with reading the story, and then we'll follow it up with some commentary.
It's day 4 of Spooky Stories, and we have The Tale of the Slank, or The Hero's Narrow Escape from the 9 Witches of the Rocks.
When round the sparkling fire the neighbors met to hear his wondrous tales, the anxious circle formed, and Paul placed in the center, he felt his consequence, and looked around to see if the circle was complete and all within hearing distance. Paul always waited for a call. At times he found a difficulty in the choice. So many people spoke at once. The girls would have the story of Santa Claus, the boys snake fights, and the old folks the tale of the Slank. It was on a dark and gloomy night that Paul was returning from the Slank with a supply of good fat snappers. Being tired, he set them down and sat on an old stump to rest and taste a little apple juice to give him a fresh courage to pursue his way. The night was dark, the place was lonesome, and it almost blew a storm. To save his hat, he tied it round his head and chin, and was about to start when all of a sudden he heard a noise, just like a flock of geese when about to alight, then many voices in High Dutch. Turning round to see what all that meant, in terror he beheld the 9 Witches of the Rocks, perched on old stumps as if that moment they alighted. One in the center held in her tiny hand a ball of fire, which they tossed from hand to hand and kept the circle in a blaze of light so that he could plainly see their form and dress. They had on broad-brimmed hats such as Quakers used to wear, tied round their chins in canoe fashion, hooked red noses projecting 6 inches beyond the brim, with chins stretched out to see how far the nose had ventured. In short gowns above their hips, red petticoats cut short above their knees, green stockings, and high-heeled wooden shoes. Paul tremblingly beheld this frightful group. His knees knocked together in triple time like rain. Cold sweat came pouring down his cheeks. Every moment he thought would be his last, or, if let to live, be a cripple and spellbound the remainder of his life. Almost in despair, he slid down by the stump. His tottering limbs would no longer bear him up. Close to his feet, his snappers lay. As he sunk down, he came in contact with the largest, who stretched out his long neck and with his hooked bill, seized an almost annihilated paw. Our hero, with pain and fear encompassed, struggled and released himself from the cruel grasp of the vindictive turtle. This was the 3rd wound our hero received, the seat of honor. Paul found himself on his legs once more. The High Dutch chatter still went on, which he did not understand. The ball of dazzling light flew round. In this dreadful plight, a happy thought just crossed his mind. It was a little courage he bottled up in his greatcoat pocket. With difficulty, he drew it out and took a double swig. And returning it in a mistake, he put it in his eelskin pouch, where he kept his white ash charm, which all this time he'd quite forgot. With eagerness, he drew it forth and rubbed it 3 times between his hands, and thought of the blessed St. Nicholas. In an instant, sudden darkness followed, and the most piercing screaming ever mortal heard. It split the bark on all the trees round. In utter darkness, Paul stood like a statue. Of sight he thought he was bereft forever. At length he ventured to move from the place he stood, not liking to come in contact with the cruel snappers. He felt relieved and took the last drop of comfort he had left, and laid him on the grass. Morpheus, in kindness to the exhausted Paul, closed his weary lids. Paul used to say there was no Jersey witches, for when he lived in Hartford, the old folks said they landed on the self-same rock our Pilgrim Fathers did, and by them were naturalized. Paul slept 2 hours by Hank Barrowman's clock, which since that eventful night never once has struck. When he awoke, he knew not where he was. He saw a glimmering light, he thought, from the garret window. He rubbed his eyes. It was the moon that had climbed the crag. He turned to the place where the witches sat in council, to see if in their hasty flight they had left aught behind. Near the center, where an old hag was perched, he found a large hooked crutch with a snake's head on one end. It made attempts to bite him. He took hold of the wooden end and threw it across his shoulders, and on it hung his snappers. He had 3 miles to go. He arrived safe home at last. It was midnight, and all at rest. He put his snappers in the rain barrel, all but the one that bit him. That he threw headlong down the cellar steps. He hung up the crutch, lest the children, when up, might unguardingly take hold and then get bit. When he rose the next morning, he took down the crutch to show the miracle to the old lady, when behold, instead of the snake's head, he beheld the ugliest picture of himself he ever saw. He threw it in the fire lest the old lady's love for the original should be cooled. This is a tale from Guide to the Passaic Falls, Paterson, New Jersey, written by Peter Archdeacon and published by Michael T. O'Connor in New York in 1845. It's a very tiny book. Very tiny.
Oh my God, we haven't gotten there yet, but I do talk about how tiny a book is in one of the other days of Spooky Stories. Stay tuned so you can hear me struggle with that. But wow, that's actually smaller than the one that I have. This one.
Just a little, yeah, almost. But it talks about the Passaic Falls, also known as the Great Falls, so that would be Paterson, New Jersey. According to the Passaic County Historical Society, which I also emailed and they haven't gotten back to me yet. But Peter Archdeacon was from England and moved to the Great Falls area after the War of 1812 with his family. He was a shoemaker and a collector of curiosities, and he'd go on to open a museum, but he did die kind of shortly after. And this story, though, I loved reading it because there's not much lore about that I know of and that I've found. Like, Jersey's mostly known for the Jersey Devil.
Right.
So, I mean, to hear about even, just the 9 witches of the rocks in Paterson was kind of cool, being from not a few towns away from that in Bergen County, and they're in, but
I wonder where, because I know, like, did you read the Weird New Jersey books growing up?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, love those.
Yeah.
And I know there's, like, the 13 Bumps road of, like, the 13 witches that's supposed to be buried. I wonder where that is. I'm going to look it up.
I wonder if they mentioned the nine witches.
But because it's supposed to be,
Falls.
like, 13 witches that were buried. And if you go over all the bumps, and you look behind you after driving over them, you'll see the witches chasing after you. That's the lore. DM us if you've been to 13 Bumps Road.
But I loved how they described it in this one with like.
Oh, it's near Watchung. Is that by Bergen County?
No.
Oh, okay.
Watchung's near here. Meaning Seton Hall and South
I've lived
Orange.
here my whole life and I have literally no idea.
Okay, at least I'm pretty sure. Can you Google where that is?
Where Watchung is.
Like, I am pretty sure because it's
Where is Watchung? It's in Somerset County. Okay.
But, like, what town is it near? Shadow map.
Oh, like North Plainfield.
Oh, yeah.
South
Okay.
Plainfield.
Yeah,
no,
so
just Plainfield, not South Plainfield.
Well, South and Plainfield, I think, there's many Plainfields. My friend used to live in Plainfield. He used to live in,
yeah.
I don't know, Plainfield. I think just regular Plainfield.
Just regular. There's no South Plainfield on this map that I'm looking at. It's just
Maybe
Plainfield
not.
and North Plainfield.
Then
South Plainfield does exist, though.
It does?
It does exist,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I used to play against them in soccer.
All right.
Anyway.
Back to Paterson.
Yeah.
The Great
it
Falls.
wasn't this, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just great, and I still don't know what some of the other tales in this book are about, but
Are they based in New Jersey, this book?
yeah, it's all about the Passaic Falls. So it is all about the Great Falls.
Wow.
Yeah. But like, you can't find any more information on it. So like, that little book you're talking about, that Tale to Come, there's more information on that series of events.
Yes.
As opposed to this one where there's not much other more information about who, like Peter Archdeacon was, or even like if this tale is actually known to people in the area of the 9 witches of the rocks. It also comes with a great engraving, and I wish I could show you, but
podcasts aren't a visual medium, I guess.
We could post it. You should check out the post.
Yeah, check out the post. I'll be posting
company
it.
This mini podcast series. But It's a great little photo that actually shows the 9 witches passing the ball of fire between each other while Paul is just like sitting on a rock.
Wait, let me see. Whoa. That's awesome. Oh, I hope you guys are looking at it as I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Passaic County Historical Society, if they ever get back.
Yeah, check for the update. If anything, we'll edit the posts.
We'll edit the posts. We also have a blog, Special Collections in the Gallery, that's linked in our bio. Maybe we should post. That's where we're going to post all these links.
We'll see. Stay tuned. You'll eventually hear it. But that's it. Until next time.
See ya. That's it for today's episode of Spooky Stories. We are your hosts, Jackie and Martha. If you enjoyed Spooky Stories, be sure to share and follow us on social media at SHU_libraries. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive and remember, the library holds more than just books. Some stories may linger long after the lights go out.